and welcome once again. Last time we discussed the notice which places our opponent in default and dishonour. Here we really start to turn the screws. Most of our notices are ignored or answered very weakly, but with this one we let our antagonists know that everything we have said up to this point is now an accepted fact in law because it has not been rebutted in substance. By remaining silent, if we are forced under duress into what they call a court, they have placed themselves in a position where our argument will be accepted as evidence that a tacit agreement has taken place. This notice, which we now examine, contains the usual protocols of addresses and salutations to start. It then goes on to outline the serious nature of the offences being committed, or which may be committed by any alleged Crown agent who, having been informed of the treason in question, then persists in their unlawful demands, or may contemplate doing so in future. It further points out that having become aware of ongoing treasonous activity, the person commits the offence of misprision of treason, concealment of treason, merely by failing to report the facts to a justice of the peace. They are reminded that they should be doing this, as well as joining those who are under oath and resisting the treason themselves, and that the penalty for committing this offence is life imprisonment and total asset stripping. They are warned that if they continue unlawful actions against the writer, that these are likely to be reported to the police, with our file of lawfully constituted correspondence consisting of totally unrebutted evidence the key factor in any subsequent proceedings. It's understandable, since treason and misprision of treason are the most serious crimes on the statute books, and under common law, that the average public servant or police officer tends to recoil from such onerous threats or penalties, and that they ignore this notice as well as the others. After the admonitions and warnings, there is a lengthy presentation of undeniable acts of treason committed by the British Parliament and unopposed by the monarch ever since the end of World War II. This is followed by a reiteration of the evidence presented in our first notice, that of lawful objection to police or alleged Crown agent. Finally, we include once again a copy of our own oath of allegiance, so that they are in no doubt as to what we refer at the beginning, when we say that they should be joining us in opposing the treason and unlawfulness of the illegitimate government which has unconstitutionally usurped authority. Clearly, we should be keeping accurate records and files of our correspondences, and detailed instructions of how to do this are also freely available from the email address shown in Australia. Large amounts of documentary evidence and arguments relating to the undoubted validity of the 1215 Magna Carta are available from the Soundbite University page on Facebook. A link to the Soundbite University page on Telegram can be found on the MC 1215 Network Chat AU channel on Telegram. Much thanks due to extremely knowledgeable and hard-working freedom advocate Fitzroy Sterling. The Practical Lawful Dissent 2 group in the UK also has excellent resources, including documents and videos, under the very capable administration of Frank Cadman. We are only three of many people who are working constantly to alert people to the threats posed by treasonous governments, and the wonderful opportunity afforded to all by the far-sighted writers of our first constitutional document more than 8 centuries ago. When one considers that it was the first attempt to bring tyrannical government under the remit of common law and universal justice, the 1215 Magna Carta stands as a staggering achievement, undoubtedly one of the greatest in all human history. When we consider that it was done without the benefit of access to modern technology that we enjoy, but was entirely the result of the exercise of reason by men who would be regarded by many as uneducated by today's standards, certainly in terms of the overall number of facts or scientific truths available to them, it deserves a great measure of quiet contemplation and admiration for its perspicacity and understanding of human nature. In view of the centuries of deliberate obfuscation of the true common or natural law by the legalese system, made even more efficient by the banning in the 1960s by Prime Minister Harold Wilson of the teaching of constitutional law in British education facilities, special credit must also go to David Robinson for his 20-year labour in unravelling this intricate skein of deception and bequeathing to every subject of the Commonwealth a valid and powerful instrument for repulsing the corporate tyranny. That also was a monumental achievement, worthy of the highest praise for its service to humanity. We can see that human nature is the same today as it was then. There are and always will be the would-be despots and sociopaths who lack empathy for their fellows and seek only their own aggrandizement and vainglory, as well as the vast bulk of people who desire only a peaceful, harmonious life with their families and neighbours. And the group somewhere in between the sizes of those two, who are willing to stand up and oppose those who seek to do evil, in the cause of protecting their fellow citizens, and especially those who are yet unborn. We virtually all fall into one of those three groups, but which is the right one for us? That is a question we all answer one way or another, either by choice or its abdication. There's no ducking the issue. Even deciding to do nothing is still a decision, is it not? Today we see many millions of people lamenting the loss of their liberties, their livelihoods, even their lives. There is no doubt that vicious criminals masquerading as pillars of the community are behind all this. When I was a boy, criminals were depicted in cartoons and comic books as wearing circular masks around their eyes and black and white hooped t-shirts with black trousers as their uniform. They spoke with rough accents, depicted by the insertion of many apostrophes in their speech bubbles. Today they wear suits and ties and speak in unctuous tones, but with motives considerably more malign. It appears that, contrary to what I was often taught, clothes do not make the man. People have had a choice, admittedly under coercion, about how to respond to these impositions. Some have responded with defiance, but very many indeed have simply gone along, hoping that it would all end soon and everything go back to normal, choosing to ignore warning signs and messages. For huge numbers of those people, their lives have been irrevocably changed, and not for the better. They have chosen to let others decide their destinies, and will have to come to terms with that in their own ways. Nevertheless, it's our duty as dwellers in a community rather than on a desert island to reach out a helping hand to as many as we can. This is in accordance with the principles of good neighbourliness, as well as good citizenship, where we accept our responsibility as guardians of freedom for our communities, especially for those who cannot defend themselves. A large part of this compliance was doubtless due to incessant fear-mongering about COVID-19 in the first place. Then the threats about the dire consequences if people didn't get the approved treatment, etc. followed by the convenient new variants every time the numbers looked like dropping off. A great many people stopped watching the mainstream media early in the piece and turned almost exclusively to alternative or social media, at least that which wasn't censored, for their information. The problem with that is that in every war since at least Napoleon, the cabal of bankers and secret societies have funded both sides. There's more profit that way, if we think about it. Currently, there is just as much output coming from social and alternate media to scare even people who are awake to what is happening as there is on the mainstream. This should lead us to ask whether the time we spend in those places ought also to be considerably reduced. Exposure to such constant psychic battering is not good for us. Perhaps we can spend more time simply focusing on our chosen tasks, or those that will accomplish the greatest good overall, and let some of the negativity slide away from the centres of our attention. For myself, that is spreading the word and facilitating as many people as possible getting into lawful standing under Article 61. I can find no way to make better use of my time in this struggle against tyranny than shortening the interval until there are enough lawful dissenters to cause this criminal facade to crumble to dust. Do join us. Thank you for watching.